This is the X-Zone Broadcast Network, broadcasting worldwide on broadcast affiliates and satellite program providers, including CNN Broadcast Network, Sirius Satellite Network, Star Media, Good News Radio Network, Angel Broadcast Network, Wiki Broadcast Network, and WPBN TV. For more information on the X-Zone Broadcast Network, visit us at www.xzbn.net.
The Science of Magic with Gwilda Wiyaka is largely an opinion talk show. All opinions, comments, or statements of fact expressed by Gwilda Wiyaka's guests are strictly their own and are not to be construed as those of the Science of Magic or endorsed in any manner by Gwilda Wiyaka, rel-mar McConnell Media Company, its affiliated networks, stations, or employees. Welcome to the Science of Magic with Gwilda Wiyaka, a program dedicated to uncovering the unified nature of reality and humanity's ever-evolving place as truly galactic beings. For more information on the Science of Magic with Gwilda Wiyaka, visit us online at www.thescienceofmagic.net.
Welcome to the Science of Magic, a program combining the science and magic of today's leading topics to co-create new solutions and promote evolutionary thinking. We're coming to you through the leader in responsible paranormal and alternative science programming, the X-Zone Broadcast Network, xzbn.net, and can also be found on our website, thescienceofmagic.net. I'm your host, Gwilda Wiyaka. This hour we'll be exploring Too Young to Feel This Old. In my early 40s, I became convinced I was falling apart. I developed severe arrhythmia, racing pulse, high blood pressure, and was unable to digest. I was always bloated and retaining water, my joints and muscles ached, my hair was falling out, and exhaustion plagued my every waking hour. At the same time, I couldn't sleep well, waking numerous times a night. Pain, depression, and brain fog were my constant companions. No matter how little I ate, my weight kept climbing, and I had dark puffy circles under my eyes. I looked much older than I was. I'm too young to feel this old, I complained to my husband at the time. So go to the doctor, he suggested, without looking up from his paper. I knew he was right. I needed help, but being extremely sensitive to pharmaceuticals, I'd not had great luck with allopathic medicine. I was desperate enough to try one more time. After a barrage of tests, something was said about fibromyalgia and chronic fatigue. But long story short, they really didn't know what was wrong with me. I was given numerous medications, from blood pressure meds to antidepressants. As had been my experience in the past, the side effects were overwhelming. Blood pressure meds caused a dry cough that led to asthma, for which I was prescribed an inhaler, which increased my blood pressure, and so on. While before I thought I was falling apart, now I was convinced I was dying. I decided to settle for falling apart rather than death by side effects, flushed all meds, and looked for other alternatives. My saving grace was working in Boulder, Colorado, the mecca of alternative medicine. I started seeking holistic practitioners there. It was a long and winding road with some practitioners better than others, but eventually I unraveled much of what had happened to my health. All the symptoms that were being treated as separate diseases were actually caused by one thing: inflammation. My body was actually attacking itself. I now enjoy excellent health and vitality. I feel much younger than I did those 20 years ago. Looking around at people of all ages in this country, I see an amazing number of them in worse condition than I was. They're overweight and bloated, complexion sallow and hair dull. There's no spring in their step. There's no hope in their eyes. And yet we just take this as the norm? We're supposedly one of the richest countries in the world. What's happening to our health? Walk down the aisles of the grocery store and tell me how much food is really there. I see copious amounts of expensive, attractively packaged fake food that's highly processed, full of additives, sweet, salt, and sugar. This supposed nutrition actually takes more energy to digest and detoxify than it provides. Follow the money. Who profits from our illness? An amazing amount of money is spent in this country on processed food, pharmaceuticals, and diet aids. Yet we're a sick, fat culture. Something isn't adding up. What is the Food and Drug Administration really policing? Our well-being as citizens, or the food and drug industry's bottom line? Our guest this hour may very well have some answers for us. Dr. Tom O'Brien is the author of The Autoimmune Fix. He also recently released the docu-series Betrayal, The Autoimmune Disease Solution. They're not telling you. An investigation into the global effects of issues underlying our autoimmune systems and chronic disease. Tom is considered the Sherlock Holmes for chronic disease and metabolic disorders, which he treats from a functional medical perspective. Tom holds a teaching facility position in the Institute for Functional Medicine and Nutritional University Health Sciences. After this commercial break, I'll introduce Dr. O'Brien, and together we'll explore the hidden chronic disease that's stealing our vitality. So don't go away. You're listening to The Science of Magic. Our current episodes are aired daily on the X-Zone Broadcast Network, xzbn.net. In service to our listeners, prior innovative episodes can always be accessed free of charge on our website, thescienceofmagic.net.
This is the X-Zone Broadcast Network, broadcasting worldwide on broadcast affiliates and satellite program providers, including CNN Broadcast Network, Sirius Satellite Network, Star Media, Good News Radio Network, Angel Broadcast Network, Wiki Broadcast Network, and WPBN TV. For more information on the X-Zone Broadcast Network, visit us at www.xzbn.net.
How would you like to be able to read other people's minds? Well, the next best thing is here. When you know how to read a person's name, you know how the person thinks, feels, and behaves. Each letter in our name holds a key to unlock our true essence. Our name contains both our gifts and challenges in this lifetime. Mnemology science discovers personality secrets hidden in the placement of the letters of our names, including the first and last impression people remember about us. Sharon shows us how to interpret the arrangement of letters as outlined in her book, Know the Name, Know the Person. Sharon Lynn Wyeth created mnemology science after 18 years of research and testing her theories, and has supported thousands of people around the world in understanding themselves and others better. You'll enjoy Sharon's unique teachings as she shares her system to learn the gifts behind your given birth name. Even if you don't like your birth name, there are jewels in this book. If you're thinking of changing your name, ready to name your child, or wanting to get along better with others, this is the book for you. If you'd like to improve your relationships and change your life for the better, get the book today, Know the Name, Know the Person, or visit www.knowthename.com. That's www.knowthename.com.
Take a step back in time and discover old Florida cuisine at Marsh Landing Restaurant in Fellsmere, Florida. Enjoy delicacies such as frog legs, gator tail, catfish, and swamp cabbage, or enjoy the more traditional cuisine such as hand-cut Angus steaks, ribs, and seafood. Join us for breakfast with a southern flair featuring sweet potato pancakes, biscuits and gravy, and much more. Planning a party? Marsh Landing's private dining rooms can accommodate groups from 8 to 80 people. While you visit, enjoy the historic pictures, artifacts, and stories that line the walls. Marsh Landing is truly a unique experience. Marsh Landing Restaurant, 44 North Broadway in historic downtown Fellsmere, or visit marshlandingrestaurant.com. Marsh Landing, Old Florida cuisine at its best.
If you're a seeker, don't miss the inspiring book Shamanic Awakening, Between the Dark and the Daylight. This remarkable work chronicles shamanic counselor and indigenously trained dream decoder Sandra Cochran's 35 years of experience with diverse wisdom keepers throughout the Americas. Sandy's initiations across the British Isles, Turkey, Greece, and Egypt, combined with her knowledge of symbology, psychology, and myth, influence her dream blog and workshops. Sandy offers private readings, sacred international journeys, a meditative CD, and her book, Shamanic Awakening, to encourage you as you navigate your earth walk and create a deeper connection to yourself. Find this and more at her website, starwalkervisions.com. Welcome back. This is The Science of Magic, dedicated to unification and evolution of consciousness. I'm your host, Gwilda Wiyaka. Our guest this hour is Dr. Tom O'Brien. He's the author of The Autoimmune Fix. His website is thedoctor.com. That's THEDR.com. Tom, thank you so much for joining us on The Science of Magic.
Oh, Gwilda, thank you. Thank you so much. And I want to say the introduction that you just gave was the most comprehensive, clear picture of the journey that so many people have to go through. You know, it's kind of similar to trying to find the keys to the kingdom. And when you're trying to find the keys to the kingdom of your health and your body's ability to function, what you've gone through is so very common, and you did a very good, clear summary of what thousands and thousands and thousands of people go through.
I thought that'd have your doctor's ears perking, given what you specialize in. Do you mind sharing with the listeners what kind of doctor you are?
Yes, of course. I was trained and licensed as a chiropractor, and I'm double board certified in nutrition. So from the day I opened my practice, I actually came into practice, and as an intern, my wife and I could not get pregnant. So I called the 7 most famous holistic doctors I'd ever heard of and said, what do you do? They told me what they do. We were pregnant in 6 weeks. I put a program together, and we were pregnant in 6 weeks.
Wow.
My neighbors in married housing heard about that, and she had been through artificial insemination and nothing had worked. Asked if I'd work with her, and I said, well, I don't think it's going to hurt you, sure. And she was pregnant in 3 months. So before getting into practice, we were hot to trot to get out there and tell the world basically what you just said in your introduction, that the mechanism behind all degenerative diseases, irrespective of what the manifestation is, Alzheimer's, heart disease, kidney problems, liver problems, doesn't matter. The mechanism is a mechanism of the cell on fire. It's just a question. Is it the brain cell or the kidney cell? Is it gasoline or kerosene? But that's the big kahuna picture that covers all of healthcare. As silly as it sounds to say that, when you read the science, that's the mechanism that causes the diseases that we are vulnerable to.
What determines which breaks down? So, we're talking the cells on fire, that's inflammation, correct?
Yes.
What determines which system breaks down?
That's a really good question, and there's 2 answers to that. One is your genetics. This is patient. You were born with a set of genes. That's your deck of cards. That's not going to change. But that doesn't mean that you're going to get a certain disease. If you pull at a chain, the chain always breaks at the weakest link. It's at one end, the middle, the other end. It's your heart, your brain, your kidney, your liver. Wherever your genetic weak link is, the pull on the chain, that's where the link's going to break. And the pull on the chain is inflammation. So there are 2 things that set you up for whatever disease you get. One is your genetics, and the second is called your antecedents. And that is everything that's happened to you in this lifetime. How many prescriptions for antibiotics have you had that have chewed up the good bacteria in your gut? Have you been exposed to mercury because you eat too much tuna? And all tuna has mercury in it now, and if it accumulates in your body, you have mercury toxicity. That will pull on your chain. Have you broken a number of bones? Have you been living in a moldy house? Those are all called your antecedents. Historically, what's happened to your body in terms of your exposures and what you've eaten. So that's between the genetics and the antecedents, that's the pull on the chain that causes the inflammation. And from there, wherever your weak link is, if it's your brain, you get dementia or schizophrenia or depression. If it's your thyroid, you get hypothyroid. You got cold hands and feet. You can't wake up in the morning. You wish you had 20 more minutes in bed. You wear socks to bed. You can't lose weight even if you don't eat for a couple of days. All signs of a sluggish thyroid, if that's the weak link in your chain. It just depends on your genetics and antecedents as to how the excess inflammation is going to manifest itself. So the first step here, the very first step is stop throwing gasoline on the fire, which means look and see what is it in your life, in your exposures, your environmental exposures, that's triggering the inflammation for you. Is it foods? Are there particular foods that do this? And for me, what brought me into this whole world of thinking and writing the book, The Autoimmune Fix, was years studying the effects of wheat and how wheat sensitivity or gluten sensitivity for some people will cause Alzheimer's. It killed my godmother of liver cancer.
Yeah, let's go into wheat a little bit. I mean, supposedly whole wheat's a great food and all this stuff, and yet people in droves are starting to be allergic to it. What's going on there?
Yeah, actually, the studies have been coming out for the last 15 years or so, but usually only the geeks read the studies, like me. But Harvard published a study, Holland, Hollon. You can go to Google and type in Holland at Harvard, and you'll find this study. They demonstrated that every single human, when they eat wheat, every time they eat wheat, every person gets something called intestinal permeability, or the slang term is the leaky gut. And that is the gateway into the development of autoimmune diseases, whether it's MS or rheumatoid or lupus or psoriasis. So wheat is gasoline on the fire for everyone. Everyone, whether you feel sick when you eat it or not. It does a number on your intestines for everyone. And when you have that leaky gut, the inside lining of your intestines is like cheesecloth. And only certain size molecules can get through the cheesecloth to get into the bloodstream. When you eat wheat, you get tears in the cheesecloth. That's called intestinal permeability or leaky gut. When you have tears in the cheesecloth, larger molecules of food go right through the tears before there's been enough time for your enzymes to break the food down into really small molecules to fit through the cheesecloth.
Oh, so and then let me guess. When the larger molecules get out in your system where they don't belong yet, the immune system thinks they're an enemy. Is that correct?
That is exactly right. They're called macromolecules, big molecules. And your immune system that's there to protect you says, wait a minute, what is this? This is not a raw material that I can use to make new bone cells or brain cells or liver enzymes. I better fight this. Yo, immune system, fight this. Then your immune system makes antibodies to fight that macromolecule. So if the macromolecule is chicken, now you're allergic to chicken or to bananas or to beets or to wheat or to whatever the food is. And that's the people that go to a doctor, a holistic doctor, and they do a 90-food panel or a 100-food panel, blood test, and they come back allergic to 20 or 30 things. They say, oh, my God, that's everything I eat. Well, of course it is, because your immune system's trying to protect you. Your immune system hasn't gone haywire. It's trying to protect you. You have to heal the damage in the intestines, stop eating the food for a while, stop throwing gasoline on the fire, heal the damage to the intestines, wait 6 months and go back and check, and now you're sensitive to 2 foods, maybe 3. And those are the true ones that you have to keep out of there.
So in other words, you can, if you go away from the foods for a while, you can actually come back from acquired food allergy?
As long as you've done the work to heal the intestines, to stop the mechanism that's tearing the cheesecloth, that's true with most foods. The one food we know that is not true with is wheat. Once you have elevated antibodies to wheat, you're toast for life. That's a joke. I have to get a little humor in there once in a while with this really heady stuff, because this is really hard for people,
it is.
to get a hold of sometimes.
Yeah, it is. It's because
it is.
we've been told all along this stuff's good for us, and yet we're sick and we're going, what is going on here? So if you're dealing with how much do you think the GMOs have to do with some of the wheat allergies we're dealing with now?
Well, that's a multi-faceted answer. So I'll give you just a couple of points. The first one, GMO wheat has just come on the market very recently. It's been experimented with for a long time, but actually strains of wheat are now being grown, but that's just in the last couple of years. But they have been spraying wheat crops with the chemical glyphosate for, I think it's about 10 years now. Mm-hmm. And they spray the crops 3 weeks before they want to harvest. Why? It kills the plant. And when they kill the plant for survival reasons, the plant brings much of its energy up into the seeds. And that is what they harvest to make wheat flour. So that you get more potent flour with more gluten in it. Also, it doesn't plug up the combines, so the farmers like it a lot. When they're harvesting the stuff, their combines don't get all plugged up. But now
sure plugs up our combines. It sure plugs up our combines.
Right. That's exactly right.
Yeah.
It does. Good point. But now you've got this glyphosate residue. And Monsanto, the manufacturer of glyphosate, says there's no evidence that glyphosate harms humans. And technically, they are correct. But what glyphosate does do is it kills the good bacteria in your gut, the microbiota. And there are many papers on that. And the other part of this with glyphosate, which is the main ingredient in Roundup, 32% of Roundup is glyphosate, and this has been Monsanto's position. And then everything else is labeled in Roundup as inert ingredients. And Dr. Miles Seralini in France has published a number of papers showing that the inert ingredients are not inert at all. They just categorize them that way so they wouldn't have to identify them all, but they're over 100 times more toxic than glyphosate and do damage human cells. That's why one of the recommendations in the book, The Autoimmune Fix, is you leave your shoes at the door. Now, why is that? Well, it's not some Zen Buddhist thing. Rather, you're walking home, and you're walking on a sidewalk, and you walk up the driveway to the house, and your neighbor sprayed the sidewalk yesterday to kill the weeds, and he sprayed Roundup. So now you've got Roundup on the bottom of your shoes, and you walk through the house with your shoes on, Roundup gets on your carpet. Now your 1-year-old who's crawling around on the carpet, or your teenage kids who are doing their homework on the floor, watching television, now they're getting Roundup on their hands and on their bodies. That's why you leave your shoes at the door. That people have to learn the little lifestyle habits that are going to protect you. Here's the reason why. The World Wildlife Fund, about 3 months ago, published a paper in conjunction with 2 universities that demonstrates there has been, on average, a 57% loss of wildlife on the planet since 1970. Now, I read that in a newspaper article, and I said, oh, that's too bad. And then I turned the page because I'm so numb. We hear these horrible statistics all the time. We go numb.
Right.
And I was on an airplane. I landed back in San Diego, and I walked out to the parking lot, got in my car, and was driving home. And I was on the highway, and I almost hit the brakes when I said, wait a minute.
We're going to have
killed off 57% of everything?
We're going to have to leave this as a cliffhanger because it's time for a break, but we'll pick up on the other side. Tom and I will return to our discussion on the other side of this commercial break, so don't you go away. We're coming to you through the X-Zone Broadcast Network. Don't miss the other fine shows and hosts on xzbn.net. You're listening to The Science of Magic, your resource for creative solutions in a changing world, thescienceofmagic.net.
This is the X-Zone Broadcast Network, broadcasting worldwide on broadcast affiliates and satellite program providers, including CNN Broadcast Network, Sirius Satellite Network, Star Media, Good News Radio Network, Angel Broadcast Network, Wiki Broadcast Network, and WPBN TV. For more information on the X-Zone Broadcast Network, visit us at www.xzbn.net.
There's a legend shared by many indigenous cultures of a time when the nations were cast to the four corners of the world. Each nation was given a body of sacred knowledge that held a different portion of the truth to preserve. True reality could not be known until all the nations reunited, combining the information. If a single one was missing, the world could not be reborn and darkness would prevail. The Science of Magic Radio is dedicated to reuniting the sacred knowledge. With the understanding, none of us has all the answers, but together we can open new perceptions and possibilities. Through our combined vision, the world can be reborn into a place where darkness no longer prevails. Join me, Gwilda Wiyaka, and the Science of Magic daily on the X-Zone Broadcast Network, xzbn.net, or visit us at thescienceofmagic.net.
Gibbs A. Williams, Ph.D., is a practicing psychoanalyst, supervisor, researcher, and author in New York City. Much of his life has been dedicated to understanding nature and the uses of meaningful coincidences or synchronicities. His radical and original non-Jungian, non-mystical, non-magical theory of synchronicities illuminates much of the fog surrounding this challenging and perplexing topic. His ideas and manners are fresh, presented in a style that is both entertaining and highly informative. He is also an expert on crisis intervention, specially focused on violence reduction for the police and citizens, mastering anxiety, frustration, and stress without the use of medication, and effectively preventing and treating heroin addiction. Dr. Williams can be contacted at his email address at gwwilliamsny11@aol.com or visit his website at Did you know that when you're on the road with limited data or Wi-Fi, you can still listen to the X-Zone Radio Show with Rob McConnell, The Science of Magic with Gwilda Wiyaka, X-1, Dimension X, Space Patrol, and every minute of the X-Zone Broadcast Network by calling 213-401-0080, courtesy of Audio Now. No smartphone, app, or internet needed. It saves your data plan and it's free if you have unlimited minutes. Call 213-401-0080 to listen on any phone, anytime, anywhere. Remember 213-401-0080 for the best of the paranormal, parapsychology, and sci-fi radio programming anywhere, 24/7, 365.
True healing must address 4 levels: physical, emotional, mental, and spiritual, for us to live joyful and productive lives. We tend to treat 3 of the 4, leaving the spiritual languishing. If you're tired of the same dysfunctional patterns cropping up in your life, Soul Balancing is for you. Trixie Phelps, owner and founder of Soul Balancing, is a naturally gifted energy healer trained in numerous esoteric forms, including shamanism. Trixie has created a powerful modality that safely and effectively clears your energetic field. A soul balancing session can remove interference, heal trauma, and restore your hope. Contact Trixie for a life-changing long-distance session today, www.soulbalancing.world. Welcome back. This is the Science of Magic, a place where magic and science come together to promote enlightenment. I'm your host, Gwilda Wiyaka. We cover what's hot for in-depth exploration of leading-edge subjects from numerous authorities and viewpoints. Join our email family to receive our topic-driven episode collections at thescienceofmagic.net. Our guest this hour is Dr. Tom O'Brien. He's the author of The Autoimmune Fix. Tom, you were just getting into the scary statistics of how much of our wildlife has been is dropping dead, basically.
Yes, Gwilda. It's just impossible to have magic when you feel like poo in your life. And so all of this discussion today is to help people get a deeper understanding of have their body support them as a tool. And this is a really important concept, that there's been a 57% loss of all wildlife on the planet since 1970. That's the average, 57%. Those numbers are higher around fresh water. And why is that? Because the animals are drinking the water. If you were drinking the water coming out of the stream near your house or the river, you'd get cancer really quick, and you'd be unable to reproduce really quick, just like the bumblebees and the Baltimore Orioles and the rainbow trout and the polar bears. And the list goes on and on. Every species. In 46 years, we've wiped out more than half of everything on the planet in 46 years. We all have to wake up. I never thought that I would be an alarmist, but you read these kind of studies and you see how we're just blindly going forward doing the same lifestyle that's causing all this damage, and we just don't want to hear it. We just want to be comfortable. The result is your grandchildren are not going to have animals on the planet, which means the survival of the human species is going to come into play here in the next few generations.
It's amazing how quickly it's deteriorating. In your book, you stated there's a number of people in the United States with chronic conditions is rapidly rising. In fact, you said it's predicted that by the year 2030, close to half of the entire population will be diagnosed with some form of chronic disease. Where did those numbers come from? That's pretty alarming.
All the studies. There's a citation for that quote, and you can look in the back and see which journal that comes from. It is alarming. Everything in that book is based on research articles. I'm one of those geeks that just reads the articles. I'm not making any of this stuff up. I just read the studies. And I said, what? Hey, look at this.
Supposedly.
On the lecture circuit.
Yeah, supposedly our lifespans are getting longer. Why aren't we hearing more about this?
Well, actually, that's not true. For the first time in the history since we started keeping records, male lifespan in the United States went down last year for the first time. And the New England Journal of Medicine published a paper that said for the first time in the history of the human species, for the very first time ever, children born today have a shorter projected lifespan than their parents. They're going to get sick at earlier ages, get diagnosed with diseases at earlier ages, and die at an earlier age than when their parents die. So we're all of us are believing the party line that we've heard for years. We're getting stronger and we're growing older, and that's changing. And the Center for Disease Control published a paper that showed that by the year 2026, that's 9 years from now, by the year 2026, 1 child in 2 will be on the autism spectrum. 1 child in 2. When I came into practice in 1980, it was 1 child out of every 4,853.
Yeah, if we're in the school system at all, it's obvious. It's obvious. The ADD, the ADHD, the autism. What's happening? Is this chemical related? Is it the neonicotinoids? What's going on?
It is. No, it is. It's every child born in America today. Just read the studies. Every child born in America today has an average of 186 toxic chemicals in the placental blood at birth. That's the average.
So it crosses the placental barrier.
Chemicals.
So
exactly.
Wow.
And just one of the chemicals, bisphenol A, the chemical that's used in plastics and plastic bottles and soft contact lenses and so many other uses. Bisphenol A binds on receptor sites in the brain, and it inhibits the laying down of what's called myelin. That's the saran wrap around your nerves. It inhibits the myelin from forming around the master control center in the brain called the hippocampus. That paper just came out a month ago, maybe 6 weeks ago. Bisphenol A, this toxic chemical that comes out of water bottles when you use plastic water bottles, binds on baby's brain and prohibits the laying down of myelin, the saran wrap that protects those nerves. So how is the control center in that baby's brain going to develop and grow, not the way it should. It's going to be interfered with. One of the mechanisms behind the CDC saying that 1 child in 2 is going to be on the autism spectrum in another 9 years.
Wow.
We have to wake up now. Who's going to pay for these kids? These kids can't function in society as they grow up. Who's going to take care of them? I mean, it's unbelievable what's happening and how we've got our heads buried in the sand.
Yeah, it's pretty frightening, and I know that I have a lot of friends that are teachers. I have a lot of friends that work in the medical profession, and we're all seeing the same thing. Things are kind of going to heck in a handbasket, and yet we're not hearing about it. People have their heads in the sand. How are we going to bring public awareness to this so that we can choose to turn it around by choosing what to buy? We don't have to buy Roundup.
That's a really good question. How do we bring public awareness to it? Read my book. The book is 30 years of studies, and it's meant to help people understand this big picture. That's the goal of the book, is to understand what it is that we're up against, plus many little clues, such as you do not go to the coffee shop and order a coffee or a tea and then take the container that's lined with bisphenol A and the lid that's lined with BPS, which is the chemical they're using now instead of bisphenol A. They put a new chemical in there that's worse. So you don't order your coffee or your tea. Rather, you walk in with your stainless steel mug and say, fill it up.
Yeah.
And then you walk out. And so you're not exposed to those plastics. You take your shoes off when you come in your house. You don't use plastic containers to store food. You get glass containers. Miles Kimball is a catalog, an online catalog, and they're inexpensive, and they've got really nice glass containers with glass lids. And so you have to learn all these little things to do, so you're not exposing your family to all of these toxic chemicals as readily, that you're going to reduce the load. And the most important thing, there's only one thing you do, is learn what foods you're eating that are throwing gasoline on the fire. That your system is just overwhelmed by all of the toxicity that we're exposed to. It's completely overwhelmed.
So there's things we can do.
Much more disease.
There's things we can do, but there's things we can't do. I mean, right now there's certain things that we're just exposed to that we don't have any choice in. What can you tell me about antibiotics and what's going on there?
When antibiotics are needed, you need antibiotics. You take the drugs. But there is such a free-form writing of prescriptions for antibiotics when they're not necessary. And that's just a small part of the exposure. Many food crops are sprayed with antibiotics. Not all, but many animals, cows, sheep, are injected with antibiotics because it helps them get fatter. When they get fatter, ranchers get more, so many dollars per pound. You have more pounds, you get more money for the animal.
But why are they getting fatter?
We're exposed. Well,
why are they?
It's a reaction to the antibiotics, and that's exactly what happens in humans, is that it kills off the good bacteria that protects you to keep balance in terms of calorie utilization, and you get more of a bacteria called Firmicutes, which is calorie hoarding, calorie storing. We think about the Pima Indians in the southwest of southwest of the United States. And at this point, 50% of Pima Indians are obese and have type 2 diabetes by the age of 35. 50% of them. And it's because their genetics of the microbiome that they have, the bacteria in their gut, was one for survival and used calories very efficiently, because they lived in the desert where there wasn't much food. And the only people that survived were those that were very calorie efficient. They could hoard and store calories. So they developed the microbiome to store calories because there wasn't much food available for them. Now, mother passes on microbiota to the next generation, and so it went generation to generation to generation. The more Firmicutes in the bacteria of the Pima Indians, more likely they survived and they thrived and they reproduced. So the babies born would have more Firmicutes. And so now you come into the 20th century, now the 21st century, and these Indians have such high levels of Firmicutes it's protective for them. But now they're eating the American diet, and they're just bloating up. By the age of 35, they've got type 2 diabetes.
Wow, that's
amazing.
What
antibiotics do. Antibiotics knock out the good bacteria, and they allow more pernickety, so people just start hoarding calories, and they get fatter because of what's going on in their microbiome.
But
That's
if you
all
don't,
in the book.
if it kills off our natural flora and fauna in the gut that we need to digest, do we end up getting more of your permeable intestine thing going on?
Oh my goodness, yes. The intestinal permeability, the leaky gut, is rampant with antibiotics. One dose of antibiotics, the first day you take it, you bet. The studies are really clear on that, how quickly that happens.
And so that's adding to the inflammation response.
That's exactly right. But sometimes you need antibiotics. This is not to trash antibiotics. Sometimes you need them. But you also have to know how to rebuild a healthy microbiota once you've damaged it.
And that leads to the $64 question. What do you suggest to start rebuilding it right away?
Well, the first thing you can do, the easy thing, is go online, go to Google, and type in list of prebiotics, P-R-E, prebiotics. Prebiotics are the foods that feed the probiotics, that's the bacteria in your gut, that feed the probiotics. So you want to eat at least 2 or 3 different prebiotics every day. Every day.
Do they come in particular foods?
Oh, yes. Oh, there are many. Most root vegetables, onions, bananas. There are many, many prebiotics. I don't want anyone to think they have to eat a particular food. The one thing you want to do is have at least one root vegetable every day because they feed the good bacteria as much as any other food does. And so I go to the store and I buy organic parsnip, turnip, rutabaga, yellow beet, red beet, carrots, and then I'll just dice one up and throw it in the vegetables we're cooking every day, at least once a day. So root vegetables are a great source of prebiotics. There's a paper, it's called My Microbiome and Me. It was a Chinese researcher who worked really hard, did well, but gained a lot of weight over the next 15 years as he was raising a family and working. And then he remembered his grandmother had told him back in China that you want to keep good weight, just eat bitter melon and Chinese yams. Just have a yam every day and a little bitter melon. And so he remembered that. He started doing it. And
we're going to have to take another break.
40 pounds.
We're going to have to take another break. Tom and I will be back shortly, so don't leave us now. This is The Science of Magic, thescienceofmagic.net, your resource for altruistic professionals of science and the esoteric, working to create common ground for the betterment of our world. We're in this together. Your thoughts are very important. If you have any comments or topics of interest to suggest, please email me at info@thescienceofmagic.net.
This is the X-Zone Broadcast Network, broadcasting worldwide on broadcast affiliates and satellite program providers, including CNN Broadcast Network, Sirius Satellite Network, Star Media, Good News Radio Network, Angel Broadcast Network, Wiki Broadcast Network, and WPBN TV. For more information on the X-Zone Broadcast Network, visit us at www.xzbn.net.
Did you know that when you're on the road with limited data or Wi-Fi, you can still listen to the X-Zone Radio Show with Rob McConnell, The Science of Magic with Gwilda Wiyaka, X-1, Dimension X, Space Patrol, and every minute of the X-Zone Broadcast Network by calling 213-401-0080, courtesy of Audio Now. No smartphone, app, or internet needed. It saves your data plan, and it's free if you have unlimited minutes. Call 213 213-401-0080 to listen on any phone, anytime, anywhere. Remember 213-401-0080 for the best of the paranormal, parapsychology, and sci-fi radio programming anywhere, 24/7, 365.
I am Dr. Carl O'Helvey, founder, president of a new cancer foundation focusing on evidence-based physical, mental, and spiritual interventions, including natural cancer cures, prayer, meditation, affirmations, nutrition, and other related holistic cancer prevention and cure modalities. These are used in cancer education, research, and financing care. I ask for your help to continue this important work by donating at www.holisticcancerfoundation.com.
Wouldn't you love to know the secret to everything? I'm Dr. Kimberly McGeorge, and on The Secret to Everything, we will merge the practical with open investigation into all realms of the mysterious. We will talk to cutting-edge alternative health practitioners, those who inspire and motivate you in business and life, and of course, we will share stories of the paranormal, conspiracy, and cryptozoology. You will transform because of the frequency I carry, the frequencies my guests carry. Life may never be the same after you listen to this program, for the secret to everything is for you, the listener, for those who desire more in every area of their lives and believe that it can still be found. Listen and discover thesecrettoeverything.com.
Little children aren't the only ones afraid of the dark. Millions of soldiers return from war zones with PTSD, anger, frustration, fear, and loneliness, much of which surfaces during the darkness of the night. You have the chance to change the lives of these American heroes. Songs and Stories for Soldiers.us provides free MP3 players for these men and women. With a list of 3 million songs in 16 different styles, 100,000 audiobooks, and 30,000 old-time radio programs, every veteran can find something to soothe and comfort them at no cost. All our players contain an 8-hour audio program designed to help veterans fall asleep. With 1,500 plus vets now participating, it's our goal to deliver 10,000 audio players this year. Go to our website at songsandstoriesforsoldiers.us. Help us help a veteran make it through the night.
Welcome back. This is The Science of Magic, bringing together gifted people of service to the world. I'm your host, Gwilda Wiyaka. What's up in your world? Email me at info@thescienceofmagic.net and suggest a topic that's on your mind. You're probably not the only one interested. Our guest this hour is Dr. Tom O'Brien. He's the author of The Autoimmune Fix. Tom, now we were talking about, you call them prebiotics that feed the good bugs that we need in our stomach, and you start after antibiotics with those to create an environment for restructuring the good guys in there. And I'll bet you're not talking, when you're talking about root vegetables, I'll bet you're not talking about potato chips.
That's correct. Unfortunately, white potatoes turn the genes on to gain weight and can create more inflammation. That's white potato, not sweet potatoes, but white potatoes do that. So we are not talking about potato chips or deep fried foods.
So the closer to the way God created it before man got his grubby little hands on it, the better. Is that correct?
Yes, of course, yes.
What is it with
white? It's okay to eat the way we think it's okay to eat the way that we've eaten our lives, for our whole lives. But the results would say, you know what? That's not what you're supposed to be doing. I mean, you just look at the results of our lifestyles, and you see that we're getting sick earlier, we're getting more disease, we're dying earlier, our kids are dying earlier, and we're actually wiping out the planet. We really do have to wake up.
What can you tell us about autoimmune disease? I mean, you and I know what it means, but it doesn't necessarily mean everyone does.
Yes. Most diseases actually are autoimmune. Cardiovascular disease is autoimmune in its initiating phases. Cancer is autoimmune. So the autoimmune mechanism is the trigger for most degenerative diseases that we are vulnerable to. And autoimmune means your immune system is attacking your own tissue. And the reason that happens, as we talked about earlier with the leaky gut and these macromolecules get into the bloodstream, when your immune system fights those macromolecules, it's trained to go after a particular signal in that food substance. And they're called amino acids. And so that signal might be 8 letters long, 8 amino acids long, 14 amino acids long, but that's what the antibodies look for to attack, is this signature, because there's a lot of traffic on the highway of your bloodstream, and it needs to know whether it's going after a minivan or going after a semi-truck. And so you look for the signature. Well, the signature of many of the foods, the pieces of food that your immune system is programmed to attack, that signature looks just like your thyroid, or just like your brain, or just like your bones. So those antibodies with the immune system attacking the food can get confused, and then it looks the same, so it attacks the thyroid, or it attacks the brain, or it attacks the bones, or it attacks the kidneys, or it attacks the muscles. That's the genetics I was referring to earlier that make you vulnerable as to where's the weak link in your chain. So the technical term is molecular mimicry, that the food particle that the immune system attacks looks just like your own tissue. So your immune system starts attacking your own tissue. So you don't want to suppress the immune system. You want to stop being exposed to the trigger that's causing the problem.
Yeah, and that's what we normally do is all these very harsh drugs to suppress the immune system to try to save people from cancer.
That's right. That's right. And that's why if you look at the studies, and I'm not exaggerating, there are thousands of studies now, when a person goes wheat-free, they don't have unexplained miscarriages anymore. They have a healthy baby. Or if a person goes wheat-free, he reverses Lou Gehrig's disease, ALS, which is a fatal diagnosis, and it's gone in 2 years with no signs of a lesion. When you reduce wheat from your diet for somebody else for their weak link, their MS goes away. When you take wheat out of the diet for somebody else, the juvenile rheumatoid arthritis goes away, and these kids are without pain for the first time in their lives. I mean, it's just unbelievable the results you'll see, depending on where the weak link in your chain is.
Right. How can a person tell they're developing some sort of autoimmune disease?
There are blood
early
tests
signs
now that are very accurate. Very, very accurate blood tests are available now. The laboratory is Cyrex, C-Y-R-E-X, CyrexLabs.com. It's array number 5. And you can see information on that on my website. And you download the information on my website, take it to your doctor, and say, I want this test. I want to know where the weak link in my chain is. Where's my immune system currently attacking my own body? And your doc say, well, what are you talking about? Because they won't understand this concept. But nobody gets Alzheimer's in their 60s or 70s. You get Alzheimer's in your 20s or 30s. It's just decades of killing off cells before there's enough damage that it becomes obvious. And the speed of killing off cells gets faster with the more cells you kill off. But the mechanism is going on for decades. You can identify the mechanism of what's attacking your brain. You can identify the mechanism of whether you're attacking your bones or your reproductive system or your muscles or your heart. I had a guy come to me. His father died at 44 of a massive coronary. His 2 older brothers died in their 40s of massive coronaries. He was 28 when his last brother died. He went to a cardiologist to put him on a statin preventatively. Well, he comes to me at 44, and obviously he's concerned, but he's the picture of health. He's been squeaky clean on living a good life, exercises regularly, 16% body fat, healthy looking. Every blood test has been normal for him. His doctors tell him he's a picture of health. And he said, I want your test. All 3 antibodies to his heart were sky high.
Oh, my
immune
goodness.
system was killing off his heart. but he felt like
goodness.
$1 million. And he said, why is that? And I said, well, let's find out. He was allergic to wheat and to dairy. We just took those two things out of his diet. He already was taking vitamins, didn't have to change anything else, and in 6 months, the antibodies to his heart were down to normal. He said, you saved my life. And I said, well, probably, yeah.
So basically, these tests are really the way to tell, because by the time you're symptomatic, you're in a lot of trouble. Is that what you're saying?
That's exactly right. By the time you're symptomatic, and it's called positive predictive value, PPV. There are many studies now that tell us if you've got elevated antibodies to your thyroid, especially after a pregnancy, you have a 92% likelihood you're going to get Hashimoto's thyroid disease within 7 years.
And I'm here to tell you that's no fun.
Many diseases. I understand. But many studies have shown the PPV for different diseases. So if you have elevated antibodies, you're on the spectrum. You're killing off your cells right now. That's what this test is for. It's elaborated on in detail in my book, The Autoimmune Fix.
So what are the top 3 things a person can adjust in their diet to support a healthy immune system?
The first thing you can do is learn to stop throwing gasoline on the fire, whatever that means for you. Some people are allergic to bananas. Everyone should be off wheat, but do the test to find out. Just do the right test. Go to my website and read about testing. There's an article you can get for free called The Conundrum of Gluten Sensitivity, Why the Tests Are Often Wrong. And you read that article, and it makes perfect sense to you. You take that article to your doctor, ask him to read it, because I put the reference studies in there so they can study this in more detail, and then they'll understand what blood tests to do, because they're doing an inaccurate test right now. So when they do the right blood test, then you'll find out if you have a problem. So the first thing, stop throwing gasoline on the fire. The second thing, include prebiotic foods in every meal. And just download a list, because there are many, many different prebiotic foods. The third thing is drink at least a half ounce of water per pound body weight per day. If you weigh 120 pounds, that's 60 ounces of water a day. If you weigh 140 pounds, that's 70 ounces of water a day. Measure it out so that you get a really good idea of how much water that is, and do it for 3 days. Just do it for 3 days. And notice how you feel a little different once you're more hydrated and you begin detoxing a little bit more. So those are 3 things that you can do that will help.
What about water quality? What kind of water do you have to go for? I mean, everybody buys this bottle of water, but it's coming out of plastic bottles, and you just said that wasn't good.
Well, that's very true. That's very obviously, the better the quality of the water, the better. But still, water is better for you than Coca-Cola, because Coca-Cola is made from the same water, right? It's made from tap water. So you want the best quality water you can get. And in the book, we talk about why water filtration systems are important. What's the best water to buy? Your tap water, after it's gone through a good filtration.
Like
why an air filter is so important to have in your home.
Like reverse osmosis?
That's a component. Reverse osmosis, 2-micron granulation filters, two 2-micron filters, and charcoal granulation. Reverse osmosis, 2-micron filter, charcoal granulation. And that's a good water filtration system. And air filters. We now know that there are 3 different types of Alzheimer's. One of them is called inhalation Alzheimer's. And it's what you breathe that's causing the inflammation in your brain. We know kids in Mexico now, are being identified with Alzheimer's. They look for kids with a gene for Alzheimer's. Those kids that have the gene, meaning they're vulnerable to it, every single one of them already has plaque in their brain in Mexico City. Why? Because of the air pollution. So we've learned from that there is a type of Alzheimer's called inhalation Alzheimer's.
Wow.
And that's true here in the U.S., and more and more people are getting it.
Time flies, and we're out of it. I can't thank you enough, Dr. O'Brien, for being on the show with us today and bringing all this hard-earned knowledge.
Thank you. It's been a pleasure to be with you.
Our guest this hour has been Dr. Tom O'Brien, the author of The Autoimmune Fix. His website is thedoctor.com. That's THEDR.com. This has been The Science of Magic. For in-depth exploration of leading-edge subjects of numerous authorities and viewpoints, join our email family to receive our topic-driven episode collections at thescienceofmagic.net. Until next time, dear ones, may you be blessed with knowledge, comforted with love, as you live a healthy and abundant life.